Audio is the heartbeat of every live show, and when things go wrong, all eyes turn to the person at the audio board. Our next guest, Mike Utter, knows exactly how to keep it all running smoothly. With years of experience mixing audio for corporate, live events, concerts, conferences, he's mastered the art of staying calm under pressure and delivering crystal clear sound in real time every single time. Let's listen to what Mike has to say. So Mike, thank you for joining us today on Media Hub. Thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule. I know you have a very, very busy schedule today, so we'll try to get this going. But I know that you have a lot of input to tell our viewers. So let's get started. So we've known each other. We've worked together for, I think, the past 7-8 years. I'm not really sure, but I know it's somewhere around there.
That sounds about right.
Yeah, so what I want to do is we have a new segment of the show for this season called Icebreakers and Quick Takes. And what it is just to have our viewers know just a little bit about you in a matter of a minute or two. So I'm going to throw some questions to you, and let's have some fun with the answers. Ready?
Hit me.
Quick takes.
So what is the wildest thing you ever heard on a hot mic?
The wildest thing.
Yep.
Oh my gosh. It was probably a CEO talking about one of his people that shouldn't have been heard.
I'm sure then you have that blackmail tape ready to go. I like it. All right, here we go.
I can
Next
neither
one.
confirm nor deny that.
I like it. Here's the next one. Do you prefer working in suits in a ballroom or working in a hot building doing a permanent AV install?
Ooh. Suits in a ballroom or a hot Man, they both suck.
So pick the one that sucks
I guess
the worst.
I guess I'd take the hot install because
Okay.
you don't have to be all dressed up.
That's a very good point. There we go. What's one piece of gear that you would never do a show without?
I would say Q box.
Q-Box, very good. What's the worst case scenario for a live audio tech?
Everybody in the audience thinking they can do a better job than the professional.
Ooh, I like it. I like it. Okay, we know how all you audio guys love blasting all the music when you're sound checking, when you're doing the room. What is your favorite song to sound check with?
Oh my gosh. Honestly, taking it back to the 80s, a little Phil Collins in the air tonight.
Love it. Love it. Okay. All right.
Quick takes.
All right, now that we got that out of the way, let's get into the nitty-gritty of all the questions on your history. Just to let everybody know, give a brief description on where you came from, where you started, and where you at right now.
Sure. Well, actually, my live event and audio career spans all the way back into middle school. I started doing theater production in middle school and enjoyed it so much I kept it going in through high school and kind of built a little group of friends in the theater there. And then originally went to school for something entirely different. Did not intend on doing what I'm doing. I had plans to do something completely different. And started going to school for that and decided I didn't enjoy it nearly as much as the production stuff. So ended up quitting my job in corporate America and went back to school, moved out of state for school, and then kind of built my career as I was in school in Nashville. And here we are.
And how long have you been in the live events industry?
Well, going on almost 20 years now, I think. It's crazy to think that I'm almost classified as a veteran in this industry.
We're getting old, dude. Face it, we're getting old. And I'm way older than you are.
I know.
So, I think it's something cool to say is like how you started, because correct me if I'm wrong because I'm not really sure, but didn't you start off in in-house AV?
Well, that was one of my like first long-term jobs. Yeah, I did work in-house AV, and that's really probably where I cut my teeth outside of doing live bands and stuff at the bars in Nashville. Well, because I was doing that while I was going to school. I did a little bit of touring here and there, and then 2008 hit with the recession. Everybody kind of had to figure different things out. The industry collapsed a little bit. And realized the money was in corporate. And so started in corporate and needed something stable and steady. And that was in
Yeah.
house. And you cut your teeth there because some places treat you like a machine and a number, and you just go, go, go.
Yeah, yeah, that is true. And there are a lot of people that were on the road or traveling with bands and things like that. They do end up in corporate later on in their career.
Hmm. Hmm.
And then also tell people, because I was on your website too, and you just started your company in 2017.
Correct.
Tell us a little bit about that, because that's a big step that some people might want to do. Like, you were already in industry. How long were you in the industry before you're like, you know what, I'm going to open up my company?
So I started freelance when I got into corporate, then did full time, and I was full time for about 7 years, and then freelanced a year or two afterwards with that same in house company. But I started the business just to pick up side income. Occasionally, I get calls for a freelance gig here or there. I just needed something to put some money into, and then some things happened in the in house side, and I said, you know what, it's time to go out, do my own thing. I can do this the way I want to do it. Um, excuse me. And so from there, deciding to make that jump
Mm-hmm.
was absolutely terrifying. And thankfully, I was in a situation where my wife had a full time stable job. So she was a safety net. I could take a risk, I could take a gamble. Not everybody has that luxury. Um, but when I had made the decision, I got a call from someone I'd worked with before. He was a freelancer and he had picked up a client. And it started with just CAD work. And then I ended up being his main general session point of contact for his client, and traveled with him for 5 years doing, just handling the general session, handling his client, handling his speakers and the entertainment and all that. And that was, it was freelance. It was kind of full time, but it was also, hey, I had input into how things worked. So
Yeah,
it
which
was it
which
was a
is which
fun
is
that was a
really
fun
good.
journey.
Yeah, for sure. One thing I would like for you to answer for the viewers is, because what was the final straw to make you take the big step and say, I'm just going to do it. I'm just going to open up the company? Because you're right, you having a safety net with your wife, that is a huge, huge help in making the decision. But what was the final straw? Because there's people out there that are in your position right now, and they are
Hmm.
worried about taking that step. So what was the last straw that made you helped you make that decision?
Yeah, unfortunately, it was a falling out with my boss at the time, and not having the support that was needed for the role that I was in.
Mm-hmm.
I had put in a little extra effort onto an event, and the appreciation for that was a pat on the back saying, "Thanks for being a team player." No, that wasn't why I did it.
Right, right. No,
I did it because it had to
listen,
get done.
right, exactly, exactly. So just to show a little love to your company, Frequency Productions, what does Frequency
Mhm.
Productions do?
So we originally started in the corporate space. We were doing a lot of corporate events prior to COVID. Unfortunately, everybody knows the whole COVID stuff. Things changed. Clients came and went. The client we had that was fairly stable moved everything to online and never came back to in person. And they handled that all internally. And so recently, in the last couple of years, we've actually made a shift into immersive attractions. And so we handle audio design, integration, installation, programming for a ton of immersive attractions across the country during the holiday season. And that it allows us to get out to different places, work with different teams, and have a little bit more creative control from a production standpoint. And it's different than corporate environment. We're still in the corporate world, but the attraction space is something I never imagined being in, but I can't imagine not being in it now.
Awesome, man. And congratulations, by the way, because I remember when you told me when you got your first one, how excited it was, especially how exciting it was for you and the whole thing. And now you got all of them.
Yeah.
With that being said, Mike, so what's the biggest difference between mixing audio for live events or an immersive attraction?
Well, with the attractions, we're not so much, mixing during the operations or on a day-to-day basis. I mean, the exception to that would be a live event within the attraction. We have a couple of those where there are live events, and so we have dedicated operators or teams, and that functions separately than the attraction. And the attraction itself, yeah, it gets mixed down, it gets walked and signed off, and kind of runs on its own if we've done our job correctly. Um, but from a live event side, there's always that variable of what's going to happen next. You could have a failure, you could have a performer or a performer issue or an attendee issue, or who knows. And that's the fun about live, is there's no second take.
Absolutely right. No second take. Which brings me to my next question. The amount of time they always give us to do, especially if it's a short turnaround show, not a week show. But let's talk about the smaller short days that you might have, a day to load in and set up, fax everything out, things like that, as opposed to one that's a full week. So on the short shows, how do you prepare for a live corporate show when you only have a limited time on site?
Um, a lot of that comes from experience, and obviously, the only way to gain experience is to be in the field, in the trenches with everybody doing it. And the things you pick up, or you don't even realize you pick up as you gain this experience, adds to that toolbox that you carry with you, and allows you to be able to adjust within that live environment. Because, like I said, you get one shot, and so something goes wrong, hopefully you've got a backup, or you've got the skills to work around it or problem solve or whatever it may need.
Right, right. Because I always say, if things are running smoothly, you did your job correctly. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
The person that's going around the show, running around like a chicken without a head, is because there's an issue on the pre-pro that was not right. Or the experience is not
Right.
there. Am I correct with that?
Right. Yeah, we've all experienced those events. I get calls from other companies to come in and work an event in various fashions or disciplines, and I take notes of that, and take it back to the way we do our events and go, okay, I like what they did, or I didn't like what they did, or I would do
Mm-hmm.
this differently. And a lot of the times, you nailed it there. A lot of the times, the pre-production is what sets that event up for success, and how much thought has been put into the big picture. Because without that, yeah, somebody's running around like crazy trying to fix something, put out a fire.
Right. Like you said, I mean, you can never have enough pre-pro. That's my 2 cents. Sometimes people hate the meetings for the next meeting, but sometimes you need to have that. So, Mike, with that being said, what gear would you always bring to a live gig, even if it's not requested?
Oh, well, a lot of that depends on the involvement or the discipline. If it's one of our events that we're producing, oh my gosh, I fill my truck with a whole bunch of stuff, whether it's been requested from the client or not, because I like being able to solve a problem before there's a problem. If it's an event that we're being hired for through somebody else, I throw a little Pelican case together, and it's going to have probably some spare batteries, and if I'm doing audio, it'll be a spare, wired microphone or two. Definitely a Q box, as we mentioned earlier. That's probably the number one troubleshooting tool. Um, some of the bigger gigs might have a couple extra laptops that I bring. If it's, I can provide an extra playback device to help, with whatever audio cues or something. We dabble in the LED world as well. And so that is a laser level and a physical level. Those are
Mm-hmm.
you can't go wrong with analog. Um, Trying to think what else. Like I feel like there's so many little things in my work box that spend 10 minutes trying to name off everything.
No, but what the list you gave was really good. So that's definitely a good start, especially like you said, the Q box, extra wired lav, anything like, or hand mic, whatever. You never know.
Hmm.
How about this? What advice would you give to someone who wants to become an A1 or an A2? Explain to them what to expect getting
Hmm.
into those roles.
Sure, sure. I think one of the biggest things that was kind of ingrained to me as I was, kind of coming up in the industry and getting my feet wet in corporate and whatnot is that as the A2, you actually need to be stronger than the A1. Sure, the A1 can sit there and mix the show all day, take cues, etc. But as the A2, you've got to know the ins and outs of the system, how it's wired, what's connected to where, what's going where, as well as being in front of clients, presenters, etc., carrying yourself in front of them, miking people up. Who knows what else you might be asked to do backstage? Like mastering the A2 role, I feel like allows a smooth transition into the A1 role. There's a
I
lot of
think
people that
that's a
can
very,
mix.
yep, yep.
Yeah, there's a lot of people that can mix. There's a lot of people that can take cues and stuff like that. But having that demeanor in front of a client, in front of a presenter, handling backstage, that's a whole different ballgame.
No, you're absolutely right because literally you're the hands extended off the board. You're running
Mm-hmm.
everything. You're doing all the troubleshooting. You're fixing anything that's happening in there, any chaos that's about to come, or people start freaking out.
Oh
You
yeah.
are the guy. You're the hands for the A1, which brings me to my next question for you. How do you troubleshoot when things go wrong mid-show?
I think a lot of that depends on what's gone wrong.
Yeah,
Um, if it's suddenly you lose a speaker goes bad or blows or something like that, you're not going to fix it mid-show. You're going to wait. You're going to wait till you have a break. You have to just too much of an interference to the event if it's mid, keynote or something like that. If a microphone dies mid presenter and you've done your pre-production and you've thought ahead, hopefully you've got a spare microphone on standby that you can get out to them. And we've had that happen. You'll have a lavalier go bad or you get batteries. That's always a fun one. Suddenly you're at full, and then the next 10 minutes later it's empty, and
yeah,
you can't predict that. Technology is man-made, and anything man-made can and will fail at some point, and it's always at the worst opportunity.
right, right. Or how about you have a panel in the beginning? It's like, oh, you have one or two speakers. All of a sudden, you have a panel of 10, and you got like three mics. You're trying to figure this out, and they're, you
Yeah,
got a
yeah,
like a 10-minute break to fix all this to make it
yeah,
work.
yeah. Well, that's just a God. I hate this word from back in the COVID era, but that's just a pivot. Hey, all right, we're going to all handhelds, and you're going to pass them along the chairs, and you're going to share. Like, the clients change things last minute on you, and as much as you think you're prepared for the clients, you don't want to be in their heads, but you're also not in their head. So,
Absolutely. Or what was the one we had on the last show? The morning of, you're like, oh, Donnie, we're going to get this call that's coming in, and
oh
it's going to
yeah,
be a Zoom
yeah,
call on this feed. You just got to learn to, okay, this is what we have. How do we make it work?
yep,
We put
yep.
our
And
heads
I think we had
together
the
and
tools
we
to
just put
fix
the
that.
heads.
I think we put that all. I think we put that all together pretty quickly. We had everything we
Oh
needed.
yeah, but like you said, is the experience, knowing what we have, putting our heads together. Okay, this is what we're gonna do.
Yep, and knowing your equipment too, and knowing that
Absolutely.
okay, hey, we need to reroute something in an audio console. Great, we've got the capabilities to do that. Oh, and the video side, yep, we can do that too. Hey, we need to add another source. Sure, no problem. We've got the open inputs.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, aside from the gear, now what about what soft skills would you say that person should have, an A1 or an A2 should have?
Ooh, soft skills.
Yeah.
Biggest thing would be communication. Knowing how to communicate as an A1, you've got to communicate with not just your audio team, but probably the leads of other disciplines, as well as maybe a show producer or a stage manager, probably even the client or a representative of the client. They may bring you content, something like that. As an A2, it's people skills. You've got to know how to work in and around other people because you're up in someone's face, miking them up, or you're interfacing with the client for a change of something. You're also working with all the backstage people. Plus, you're working with your A1. And so it's, I mean, it's not hard, but there's definitely skills that, people lack that should and could be improved upon to make those positions successful.
Yeah. As you were saying, that was coming in my head. So you said you came from music, working with bands, right? Things like
Hmm.
that. Totally different environment, totally different vibe of working with a high-end CEO of a Fortune 500, Fortune 100 company, knowing how, explain how important it is on how you carry yourself, how you talk, how you represent yourself
Hmm.
to people like that, especially if you want to get the bigger clients like that. Just talk a little bit about that.
Sure. Yeah, so yeah, I mean, there's the industry is big, but there's also all sorts of different facets within the industry. You know, you've got the touring bands, you've got live, you've got television production, movie production, et cetera, and every one of those is a different animal. We all speak the same language, but it's a different dialect. And
Mm-hmm.
so, if you come from that rock and roll area where it's a little more hardcore and it's not as professional as the corporate side, yeah, you know, you catch yourself dropping an F bomb here or there, etc. And the client interactions are different. Whereas in the corporate world, it's a little more polished, and you know, it's you're not necessarily wearing suit and tie, but you're not walking in raggedy jeans and a holy t-shirt. And so knowing and understanding those differences also can make you successful, because I've seen people seamlessly transition between those, but I've also seen people crash and burn between those. And there was a show where I was the A2 for a long time, and the A1s were always on rotation. And this one A1 came in from a rock and roll background and just did not understand corporate. And that show was on the verge of crashing and burning, no matter how much I tried as the A2 to keep things moving.
Yeah. No, I had a similar thing, man, years ago with a guy who came back from rock and roll and got into corporate. And this show was very important. But we're talking like 20 wireless mics, a lot of entertainment,
Mm-hmm.
music backgrounds. And you want to talk about a frequency nightmare? Like all the mics were cutting out. They were. I mean, it was a night. They
Yep.
ended up losing the whole
Yep.
contract because of it. And the audio guy, he just disappeared. You didn't even see him after the show. Like he was so down on himself, and it can happen.
Yep.
But it's different arenas, and you got to know. You got
It's
to know how to do
it is,
things.
but there's a lot of skills that transfer back and forth between all of them. Signal flow is signal flow. That doesn't change
That's
if you're
it.
in broadcast, live, or a studio. And so it's understanding the differences in the signal flow. It's understanding the differences in lingo. And it's also not being afraid to ask that question. Hey, what exactly do you mean? I want to make sure I have an understanding of what you're asking for. Something along those lines. Don't be afraid to ask that.
That's a great nugget you gave everybody. Right? Don't be afraid, because sometimes they just feel like they makes them look inadequate. But there's no there's no there's no stupid questions. Just ask. Better be safe than
Yeah.
sorry. Right? Okay.
Yep.
How about this? How do you keep your skills sharp when tech is always evolving? What do you do?
Well, I mean, that's keeping up with, what's happening in the industry and what's happening with technology. And, there's a couple of different industry trade shows. So frequenting those as you're able gets you hopefully hands-on time and eyeballs on the gear, being able to ask the manufacturers questions. That's probably one of the biggest things. Obviously, networking with other professionals in the industry. Maybe someone was just on a show with a new piece of technology and it was a good fit, it was a bad fit, who knows? Or there was an issue with it. Manufacturer has a bad software or firmware, and they're working on updating it. Um, it's you've got to stay relevant. You can't
Mm-hmm.
sit and get lost and refuse to change. I remember, uh, I mean, this is 2025, so back 2010 to 2012, digital consoles were making their bigger footprint in the industry.
Mm-hmm.
And I was working alongside A1s that refused to learn digital audio consoles. They were stuck in the analog days. And I was doing things with digital consoles, and they were looking at me like, I didn't know you could do that. Well, yeah, I'm researching in my off time. Yeah, I don't make it, that's not all my off time is doing, but I'm I'm learning what this console can do. Oh, we've got a new console in the inventory. Let's pull up the user manual. You got Google.
That's it. You're right, but you're right. But you always got to stay up. I always say if we don't stay ahead of it or with it, we are going to be left behind. And especially
The
getting
other,
older as well. I'm gonna be honest with you. Like,
uh
it's going to be my next question. Is like, you see with everything that's coming out. Do you see the younger people getting it a lot faster. They get it a lot faster than I do.
Hmm.
I'm not even joking with that. But you
That's
notice
right.
that, right?
Yeah, absolutely. One other thing to add to that is make relationships with vendors. Rental houses, gear rental houses. There's obviously a bunch of them here in Orlando. Make a relationship with them and ask them, hey, is this piece of gear in your warehouse? Is it sitting on the shelf today? I want to come in and play with it. Do your own training. YouTube's wonderful. Manufacturers have training videos. Some of them, yeah, it makes sense to go pay and take the manufacturer training. But I would say 80-90% of any of the technology we're using on shows, attractions, etc., you can find training online for it, and
Yeah.
you can get your hands on that piece of gear in town. So if you've got a down day or a downtime or it's off season, go take the initiative and learn it.
That's great advice, Mike. Saying that now, how have you seen the audio industry change in the last few years with gear or workflow or even client expectations? How have you seen it change?
Mhm. Um, two big changes, honestly, is one, everything's digital. So it's much more networking IP based nowadays than it was. Everything, 15, 20 years ago, it was all big copper snakes and analog audio, and audio was independent from everything. Nowadays, with it being all digital, I'm seeing these big corporate shows where in the video world, they're taking all the audio in from their video sources into the switcher. The switchers are Dante enabled. Audio plugs two Ethernet lines in, and they're cherry picking the audio sources out of the video switcher. We
Yeah.
weren't doing that 10 years ago. We weren't doing that 5 years ago.
Right.
So knowing the capabilities of the new technology allows you to figure out new workflow methods. Um, Sorry, what was the rest of the question?
The rest of it was also with not only with technology, but even workflow with clients. You already talked about the gear and what to do about that. But
Hmm.
how have you even seen the clients change a little bit throughout the years? Because I've seen it on our end, on the video side of things.
Hmm. I would say some of the clients, if they're uh, techie based, not every client wants high tech. Some clients just want that old adage of keep it simple.
Right.
Um, I would say the ones that are techie are asking for some of that new technology. Hey, we want to do this. So with a specific request, you've got to evaluate what you're using. Is it capable of it? No. Okay, what do we need to do it? Um, there are some clients that maybe want a little bit more immersive. So it changes the audio design or the video design or lighting design, even of something like that. Um, we've seen an influx and then we've seen it change. So it's an ebb and a flow of, hey, we're going to give you a little bit more money or a budget for the show. We want to do a little something creative, add more of this or that, and or maybe we want some special effects or something like that. So we get we get asked by clients in the pre-pro side, hey, we went to such and such event or we saw this on TV. Can we replicate that?
Yeah.
Well, what you saw was in an 80-foot high arena. We're in a 19-foot high ballroom. No,
Right.
but here's what we can do.
Right. Right. And it's always good to have that no, but let's pivot. This is what we can do. This is what we can accomplish. This next to it. So then it just doesn't always
Yeah,
sound negative. No, we can't do it.
right, right.
You're coming up with a
Hey, love the
solution, which is
design.
always a big plus.
Yeah, love the design, but here's what we're going to do.
All right. How about AI? The big AI question. Tell me, what are your thoughts on AI? Do you use it, and how do you use it, if so?
I refer to my chat GPT guy as dude. That's our name basis that we're on.
Nice.
Uh, I love him from the fact that I can't always put what's in my head from what I want to say to my fingertips at the keyboard or write it down. So I'll give him what I'm trying to say, and he'll fluff it up and make it sound good. And then I may tweak it from there so it doesn't totally sound like it's all AI generated. Um, that's from a let's say email text perspective. Um, AI has helped me generate some images. Images are worth 1,000 words, and so I had to do a presentation a while back where I knew exactly what I wanted to see, but couldn't necessarily find it in a Google search, and gave AI the information, and it spit out images. And I didn't care that it was AI generated. I made sure I prefaced that in my speech, but also told why I had used it. From an audio side, I actually in the spring was playing around with audio generation through AI. Um, I got tasked with creating play-ons for my son's baseball team. He's 9, and so
That's awesome.
I took I took the little snippets. It was now batting and number and the number of team or number of players on the team. It was like up to 12, and then all the player names. And AI generated everything for me. And then I smashed it all together in post production and added their play on songs and stuff like that. And it was a pretty cool end result. I'm not gonna lie.
That's pretty. That's pretty
As
cool.
good as if was it as good as if someone actually recorded it with vocal inflections and stuff like that? No, it wasn't perfect. This next season, if I do it again, I'll make some changes to it, but that's also part of the learning process. And maybe I'll sweeten it up a little more in the post side because I heard other team stuff, and you could you could tell ours was a little different. Maybe that it wasn't 100% live done, but I don't know if anybody ever caught that it was fully AI.
That's pretty cool. Do you use it at all in your immersive stuff at all?
Um, Not currently. We have
Okay.
talked about introducing like sensors and stuff and then having to create custom code based on sensors and whatnot, but we haven't gone that far yet.
Okay. All right. With that being said, let me know if you can answer this question. How should someone entering
Uh-oh.
the field prepare for the future where AI might play a bigger role?
I would say at least have a basic grasp on it. AI is everywhere. We're not escaping it. And there's a lot of funding going into the future of AI, whatever that looks like. I don't ever foresee AI replacing the human element on shows. I don't see it mixing a show. I don't see it switching a show. I don't see it being lighting design for a show. Could I be wrong? Sure. I really hope I'm not wrong. There's so much human element and human creativity behind everything that I don't know that AI could grasp a last minute change like stuff we've talked about, from a client perspective. I don't
Yeah.
think it could make that shift fast enough.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, I'm kind of mixed on it.
No, it's funny. Your last statement that you made was the same exact answer one of our other guests, Lawrence Vexler, said about AI because a lot of his stuff is post audio with VOs and stuff like that. And your guys'
Hmm.
answers were almost identical.
Wow. I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah,
it's
yeah,
true though. There's
yeah.
nothing like the human inflection. And I discovered that generating like the play-ons for the baseball team it was hard to get it. I knew what inflection I would do if I was recording it. And I've recorded voiceovers before. I knew what I wanted out of it, and no matter how many takes I did of it, never fully successfully recreated it.
No, I totally understand. We've played even 2 years ago with a couple of AI voiceover tools, and from then to now, using even different apps are night and day. There are other apps out there
Hmm.
that are better than the other that do give the inflections that do sound more human. Sometimes you got
Right.
to work on how you type it out and things like that. But you're absolutely right. Like what Lawrence he was saying, why take out the human creativity out of it?
Hmm.
I
And
understand exactly what you're
I
saying.
didn't, yeah, I didn't pay money into it either. I think I would have had more tools available if I had, signed up for it through a
Yeah,
paid service. I found a free one and it gave me X amount of credits, and I didn't even really make
right.
a dent in the credits with what I was doing. It wasn't that long, but I think there was more tools available on that service platform with a paid subscription.
Right. All right, here we go. Final question. To the person that wants to break into the industry and get their foot in the door, especially in the audio department, what would you say they should do? How should they go about it?
Oh my gosh, I think there's 100 different ways to go about it, but um, one of the biggest ones would be network. Figure out those industry events, figure out the industry gatherings, whether they're small, big, and network. Today's industry is all about who you know. I get calls from past relationships from years ago. You meet someone in passing, they happen to remember you, your name, or they worked with you on a show once, and they went, "Oh yeah, he had a solution for that," or she. I'm not trying to keep it just that. We're
Right,
just a very male dominated industry, but it
right,
was, or they were fun to work with, or you know this person is now specializing in this. We need that on this show. So I would just say network. Network's the biggest thing. You can't know too many people in this industry. And before too long, you're going to realize exactly how small this big industry is.
100%. 100%. All good advice, Mike. Thank you so much for your time. Hey, if someone wants to get a hold of you and your services, what's the best way to
Mm-hmm.
do that?
We've got a website out there. You can check it out. I think you've got it listed down below there. Slightly out of date. I looked at it the other day and realized I need to give it a little facelift. But we've got an info email on there. We have a contact form. All those come directly to me, and so happy to help out. And even if it's just answering questions, sometimes people are stuck with something. It's no sweat off my back.
Well, again, Mike, thank you so much for your time, man. I really appreciate it. I know you have other things to do today, so I'm going to let you go. But hopefully, who knows? After the comments, we might have to have you back. But thanks again.
Hey, I look forward to it.
All right, man. Have a good one. Mike's behind the scenes perspective is a powerful reminder that when it comes to live production, audio isn't just important, it's everything. We appreciate the tips, the stories, and the inspiration he has shared with us. If you have any questions, drop a comment below. We'd love to hear from you. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And until next time, keep creating, keep learning, and we'll see you back here on Media Hub.